They are this year if Ezekiel Elliott is all signed up. But for Dak specifically, what does he have to do to take that next step?
In certain situations, you have to be able to go to a game plan that is, they've eliminated our running game. They're better at that than what we are. And you can give the ball to the quarterback and say he can win the game for us. Or say, for instance, if they end up going against the #1 defense, rush defense. In New England, if they go against the #1 rush defense, like the Minnesota Vikings a couple times, when they do that, they throw the ball 45 times from a game plan, going into what are our strengths versus their strengths and doing what we want to do. Dallas needs to be able to throw the football when they want to and run it when they want to. Right now, they can only run the football. And for Dak to take those next steps as a quarterback, he needs to be more efficient as a passer. I'm talking about a dominant passer where in games you say, okay, Dak took over that half. The Cowboys don't win if he's not efficient throwing the ball. But to me, it goes back to a lot of the simple things, his fundamentals. We talk about Cam Newton. What's Cam Newton doing this year with Norv Turner, Eric Turner, the coaches there? He's working on his footwork. And that's what John Kitna has Dak doing. Concentrate on his footwork. A lot of young quarterbacks get caught up into the numbers, what's your quarterback rating, all these things. But what about your footwork? What about the fundamentals? And once you can become consistent in those things, which Dak has not been consistent, and for the average football fan, they're not going to see that. But you can see the concentration this offseason with the staff there has been hone on those fundamentals, because sometimes Dak looks great. If the pocket's clean, he has room to be able to step into his throws. But he doesn't have the biggest arm in the NFL. He's not the most accurate. So he's really got to be tight on his fundamentals for him to be efficient and for him to keep getting better as a quarterback.
And fortunately for us, we have a template for Dak's best success and the Cowboys' best success, and that's his rookie season. And we now, you can say, okay, well, his rookie season, he had Cole Beasley and Dez Bryant. Well, now he's got Randall Cobb and Amari Cooper, two guys that are as good, in fact, better than each of those players were at that point in their career. The offensive line is the same. It's the same running back. It's as good, if not a better defense.
Same coach.
Absolutely. Yep. So what was the big difference between 2016 and last year? Sacks and turnovers. Last year, Dak turned the ball over way more in just the first 8 games of the season than he did the entirety of the 2018 season. That likely comes down to, in part, fundamentals, what you're talking about, forcing the ball in. And the sack numbers were off the charts. Dak's rookie year, he was sacked the 23rd most of any quarterback in the NFL. His second year, he was middle of the pack, 14th. Last year, it was second most, 56 sacks. For comparison's sake, he was sacked 57 times his first 2 years combined. So was that the loss of Travis Frederick? Was that Tyron Smith not being as good? Was that Dak holding on to the ball too long? Most likely a combination of all of them. But we know that when Dak plays a clean game, this Cowboys team is extraordinary. Since he came into the league, if he doesn't turn the ball over, they are 24-3. 24-3 if he plays a clean game, not if he throws 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. And I agree with you that one of the next steps for him is being, especially if he's going to be paid like he wants to be paid, going to be able to take over games. But in the meantime, just don't lose the game for your team. And that does involve the team protecting him more and the team as a whole becoming much better in the red zone where they were dreadful last year.
You mentioned footwork. John Kitna said the one thing he is working on with Dak Prescott this offseason, this training camp, is going to be his footwork to make him more comfortable there in the pocket. But something Jason Witten said right there, he said he's as confident as I ever remember him being. How important, when you talk about the fundamentals, is confidence, is having that team know that Dak Prescott may not be the most efficient passer or may not be the best runner, but he is the most confident guy in that team when they all take the field.
There's a difference in what people say and what people can do. Because Russell Wilson, because I believe he's the perfect comparison for who Dak wants to evolve as a quarterback. He's on a team that's got a good defense, dominant running game. Nick always complains they shouldn't have that type of game plan with Russell Wilson. Well, that's a different argument. But Dak, if he was watching someone, he would watch Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson, he can take over games. Even though sometimes the coaching staff, they're like, no, we're going to run the ball. Russell can throw the football, his fundamentals, his arm strength. And Dak is not blessed with top 10 arm strength. We have the best throwers in the NFL in the history that we've had. We have more guys that can throw the ball. Nick, his list, to get in that top 10 list as a quarterback, it's really tough. The quarterbacks that he doesn't have in there, they're really good quarterbacks. So for me, when you don't have some of the talent that other guys have, you have to be so good on your fundamentals. You have to be so good on your film study. You can't be out there guessing. So those things, Witten is there saying all the right things because he's a leader. Dak's not more talented than he was. To me, Russell Wilson has confidence. Dak has confidence in the media. But once the game starts, the numbers don't say that. When he gets into the red zone, they run the ball all the way down to the red zone. Then they get down there. They can't throw the ball in. They pack it against Zeke, take him out of it. Dak can't get points on the board. So there's one thing to be, oh, yeah, he's confident. The Dak I see in the game still does not have the confidence of the elite throwers. And that's when you have success in the game. I'm talking about in-game confidence. Forget all that chalkboard BS. Oh, you're trying to make people feel good. What do you do in the game? And Dak is not a great quarterback yet. So regardless of what Witten is saying, and I'll take half the stuff he said, I'll take it as truth. I know he's trying to be a leader. He's trying to make a positive contribution to that team. But Dak is not as talented. He's not as good a thrower as we have in the league. So, no, I understand he's confident, but he's not Russell Wilson. Where they can run the ball 40 times, in those 25 throws, Russell Wilson is going to carve you apart. That's what I would like to see, that type of confidence.
And nothing helps a quarterback's confidence more than when you get in the scoring zone, when you get inside the 20, much less inside the 10, to get 7 instead of 3. And that's where Dallas was dreadful last year. There are only 4 teams in the league, 3 teams in the league actually kicked more short field goals, which means they were kicking field goals from the red zone. They were 26th in the league in touchdown percentage in the red zone. The 6 teams behind them, all of them were bad except for one. It's Miami, the Giants, the Texans, the Jets, the Jags, and the Niners. Like, you can't be a really good team in kicking field goals instead of scoring touchdowns. So that is partially game plan. That is partially execution. It's the whole thing. But if the Cowboys change nothing other than go from 26th in the league in red zone touchdown percentage back into the top 6 like they were in 2016, that's worth 2 more wins by itself.
Yeah, that's a huge difference.
That's a huge difference. So I would start there and then expand from there, because that should be the easiest thing to fix.
CC, is Zeke handling this the right way?
Well, he only had 2 choices, and that's either to hold out at the beginning or tell them, I need a new deal, show up to camp, but I'm not going to be here during the regular season. His ability to not be there, it puts instant pressure, regardless of what Jerry, Steven, anybody else says, because there's going to be some money passed out in Dallas this summer, and there's going to be a lot of it. And if I'm Zeke, like I said, you are in business for yourself. On your check, it does not say, Amari Cooper's my teammate. I got good offensive linemen. It says the Dallas Cowboys pay to the order of Ezekiel Elliott. That's the way the checks come. They don't come to, you got to split them up. No. Man, they got a little sliver of pie, and I'm making sure that I get a piece of that, because I'm getting ready to touch the ball 450 times. This team revolves around me more so than any person. He is more important than the head coach. He's more important than the quarterback, and he's the best player on the team. And I know guys in the locker room, what do they ultimately respect? When you work hard and you perform and you get paid for it. I think that locker room will respect Zeke getting paid, because he has carried that team for 3 years.
Well, and I went back and read the comments from Stephen Jones this past May. And Stephen Jones said 2 things, both of which are probably getting him in a little bit of trouble now. We've talked about the one that he said, which is, we know we have to pay Zeke, but we've got a couple years to get that done. I'm sure Zeke heard that and was like, no. You got a few months to get that done. But the other thing he said in that same interview that I had forgotten until I read it this morning is, well, obviously the contract will start at Gurley and go from there. Well, Todd Gurley got 4 years, $58 million with $45 million guaranteed. He said to the whole world, it will start there and go from there. So I don't know, because it was reported this weekend the Cowboys made an offer to Ezekiel Elliott, and as of we sit here today, it has not yet been responded to. That logic tells me that means it was an offer they looked at and said, man, this isn't even worth responding to. Pass this back. So are they not starting at Todd Gurley and going from there? Are they presenting him as I think would be reasonable for an initial offer? Less than highest paid history of the league at your spot, which maybe would be a credible offer if you'd have just kept your mouth shut.
Right.
But they talked about paying Dak. They talked about paying Amari. They talked about paying Zeke as the highest paid ever, just that he's going to have to wait. And so is he handling this the right way? If he has the stomach for it, if he is truly willing to go to the wall on this, meaning not just miss August, but go into September, that opening game against the Giants and potentially not be there, if he's got the stomach for it, then yeah. Because then I think the leverage will shift to him because the Cowboys desperately need him. But where he wouldn't be handling this right is if it's only a half measure. Is if he's going to sit out, and then show up still without getting paid and having lost his leverage. But it does not seem like that is, at least as we sit here today, his plan of action.
You think it's on the board that Ezekiel Elliott would be willing to miss games over the contract? Do you think it can get that far, or do you think these two, or will the Cowboys not let it get that far?
Well, I think there's some technicalities as far as the CBA, what he can do, what he can't do, what's best. Because there are some restrictions. If you are better off not coming than trying to come and then leave. We saw Julio Jones last year. He ended up showing up. Arthur Blank made him a promise. Julio still hadn't got paid yet, and we're another year removed. But Arthur Blank said that he's going to pay him. Is Zeke willing to go on a handshake agreement with Jerry Jones? I don't think so. Playing running back, I wouldn't do it. So I do believe that Zeke would not show up and be playing around, messing around. I believe he's serious because he's thought about this. This is not something he just woke up and said, I'm not going to show up the Dallas Cowboys. He knows how important he is, and he knows the message he sends right now is very important. I think Zeke will be there week number 1. I believe they'll come to some type of compromise.
And he also knows that Dallas did not plan for this, meaning here's the running backs on the roster. Darius Jackson's the only one who has any NFL touches. He has 6 carries in his career. And then it's 2 rookies, a 4th-round pick, Tony Pollard, and a 7th-round pick, Mike Weber Jr. They don't have, not that there's any great replacement for Ezekiel Elliott, but they don't have C.J. Anderson sitting there behind Todd Gurley.
Or James Conner, like what we saw last year in Pittsburgh, where you had Roethlisberger say, okay, well, we'll do with what we have. They really don't have the same situation.
There's certainly no one that is even close to proven, and Zeke knows and his representation knows how critical he is and how critical this season is for the Cowboys as far as having this young core together.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.